Well, good evening, everyone. I see some of our attendees are still coming in, and so we'll get started. However, because we have several things to cover with everyone, and we certainly hope that we have some, we will answer some of your questions as we go along. My name is Ruffin. I'm the superintendent of schools, and I'm very excited about your interest in reimagining education in Waterbury Public Schools. You know, we're not reinventing everything from scratch, because thanks to the Board of Education and thanks to a very committed Board of Education, we've worked very hard on a strategic plan in Waterbury. And perhaps many of you on this webinar today also helped us as we developed the Portrait of a Graduate. So we're not starting with a clean slate. What we're doing is we're really taking everything that we've learned, especially since March of 2020 to the present, and imagining all of the things that we have to do and that we have done, and really utilizing all of our lessons learned, as well as some really good foundation that we already have in Waterbury Public Schools to involve our community, involve our teachers and staff, involve our students, involve our community partners, to really imagining the possibilities as we move forward. I have several members of our team who are on this panel today. You're going to get an opportunity to hear from all of them. There are sections of this presentation that are theirs to take it from there. I'm giving a very brief introduction to something that's very passionate to me, is that we have an opportunity to really work collectively for the benefit of all of our students in Waterbury. Also realizing that we're not starting from scratch, because the board spent a considerable amount of time working on a strategic plan, and we've worked very hard on the Portrait of a Graduate. And so you're helping us to recommit and to reimagine where we are and what we need to do in Waterbury. At the end of this presentation, after you've heard how you can perhaps be a part of this, then you're also going to have an opportunity to provide some feedback through a thought exchange. And we're going to explain that to you as well. There are going to be opportunities for you to learn what this is and what this is not during the discourse that will follow. And I would like to, at this point, bring in members of our team so that they can begin explaining what we are working on in Waterbury and how excited we are to have you here in the webinar participating with us.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Darren Schwartz. I am the Chief Academic Officer here in the Waterbury Public Schools. Very excited to be here tonight and to meet with all of you. Looks like we're up over 80 participants now, and so tonight we have a structure that we'd like to follow. By the end of it, as Dr. Ruffin mentioned, you're going to have an opportunity to provide your thoughts through a thought exchange. And if you're interested and you have the time and the commitment to join a subcommittee in an area that piques your interest, you'll have that opportunity as well at the end of this webinar. And so as you listen in today and as we go into 5 strategic areas, I want to make sure that you're doing so with the idea of when you give the feedback through the thought exchange, or if you're interested in committing to a subcommittee and attending all the meetings, then maybe there's a strategic area that you're truly interested in and passionate about, as passionate as we are, and want to be part of that work. And so hopefully that sets the stage for as we go through this presentation. And I hope you join us as we recommit and reimagine. As Dr. Ruffin said, you know, we went through a process with the Board of Education and community members to create a strategic plan that just so happened to be finished right before March 2020, before pre-pandemic. And, you know, once that hit, everything got put on hold for us to respond appropriately to our students and our community. And as we were thinking about, as ESSER funding is coming in, and we have this great opportunity to reimagine education here in Waterbury, We also have to be prudent and go back to that commitment we made a year ago of what do we need as a district to do to improve. And so when you hear that language, recommit and reimagine, that recommitting is recommitting to the good work the committees did prior to the pandemic that said, hey, these are some excellent ways for us to improve our system. We need to recommit to those. We need to make sure that the monies that we're spending are prioritized in those areas. But we also do have now this great opportunity to reimagine education with all of the things that came with the pandemic. Some of the silver lining is, Anila, I think you need to mute. Yeah, there we go. Some of the opportunity, although I don't like to hear my own voice, although I don't think most people do, is to reimagine education in a way that the new funding allows us to, that we never thought possible. And now that students have increased computer skills, and students have now computers and laptops with them on a daily basis. We've increased the Wi-Fi, we've increased the building's capacity to be able to broadcast inside the schools. And so we need to reimagine, because we're not coming back to an educational system that we left in March of 2020. It's completely different, and the world is different. And so what a great opportunity for us to recommit and reimagine now. So I'll do just an overview of the strategic areas. I think for those that can see that aren't seeing me, but you may see the 5 strategic areas of our plan. Hopefully, Mr. Brown, can you confirm that's up?
That's great.
Okay. So strategic area 1 that we focus in on is the postgraduate guidance and preparation. How are we preparing all students for postgraduate success? We're going to go into all of these areas a little bit more in depth in a little bit, but that's the big idea in strategic area 1. Big idea for strategic area 2, teaching and learning. Personal favorite. It would hope the chief academic officer. I mean, not only do I just have to say that, but I mean, if it's not about teaching and learning, I tend to be less interested. It's where my passion lies. And so I'm going to be working with that subcommittee and talking about how do we improve academic achievement for all students in pre-K-12 now in this new environment. How exciting of an opportunity now for us to have all students with laptops and all of the amazing things they've learned over the last year. What does education look like now? All the equity work that has been done and needs to be done in the district falls under this. It falls in other areas as well, but when it comes to how does it get embedded into the teaching and learning of the school system, I'm really passionate and excited about that. And then the SEL work as well. That goes into a lot of these areas, but SEL and the social emotional learning, we know that students can't get to that academic achievement unless they're feeling safe and loved, and that's important to us as well. Strategic area 3, family and community engagement. We can't do this alone. We know it takes the Waterbury Village, as Jackie Davis says, the Waterbury Village to raise the students. And so how do we do a better job of engaging families and communities beyond what we've done so far in the last few years? And if that piques your interest, then I'm sure you'll want to join that subcommittee at the end of this presentation. Strategic area 4, talent management. Some of you may think of human resources. That's transitioned to talent management because it's beyond human resources. How are we recruiting and retaining a talented, diverse workforce in the city of Waterbury? And then 5, fiscal responsibility, which is kind of circles all of this, right? Unless we have fiscal responsibility, unless we have sustainable plans, then we can't really do this in a way that makes sense years from now, where we can look back and say, we planned for this, we were able to pull it off, and that we didn't put ourselves in jeopardy by planning too much and going too shallow, but by planning a few things really well and going deep into those areas. And so fiscal responsibility is how we'll end the night, and then give you that opportunity to give a thought exchange, and to be able to sign up for a subcommittee. So Matt Brown, who will jump on here in a second, he and I will be your conductors for the night and take you through those strategic areas. And he drew lucky number 1. And so I'll let you take it from there.
Thanks, Darren. And hello, everyone. My name is Matt Brown. I'm the Chief Turnaround Officer here in Waterbury Public Schools. And it's really exciting to see all the folks who are here and engaged with this idea of how do we figure out those things that were happening before COVID, that were in the strategic plan, that were really so important, that we recommit to them as we move through and out the other side of the pandemic. And at the same time, how do we think about these 5 strategic areas and think of the things that we've learned? Because we know this pandemic has shown a lot of different places where our school system and all school systems have work to do to make sure that success is evenly distributed. And so we'll be going through these 5 areas and having folks from our panel give you ideas of where they're recommitting to some really important work that has to continue, and also where they're inviting us all to come in and reimagine some things that we would do as a result of this funding that's coming in and some of the work that we know needs to happen. The area that Darren wants me to start with is the postgraduate guidance and preparation. We know the mission of Waterbury Public Schools is to make sure that it inspires and prepares every student to be successful in school and beyond. And let's say that word again, and beyond. We are judging ourselves not just how well we do when students are in our buildings, but we're really judging ourselves how well we do after they've moved through our system and are living lives outside of our K through 12, pre-K through 12 system. The judgment of how successful we are is really the type of lifelong habits of learning and habits of mind our students pick up, like the ones we've put forth in our portrait of a graduate that we say are so important. They're not just things students should use in school, they're things students should be using to get themselves to their next stages of life, to college, career, and a happy and successful life beyond. So there are some things within that we're going to recommit to. And there's also some things within that as we seek to prepare our students for life after high school, we want to reimagine. So having said that, I'm going to invite any panelists on here that want to share some of that work that's happened before that we're recommitting with, and also some of the exciting work they want to invite folks in to reimagine.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, everyone. I'm excited for the opportunity to work with you all as we embark on this reimagining journey, as we reconnect and recommit to embracing the strategic plan area for postgraduate guidance and preparation. We've revisited the characteristics of the project of the graduate, the portrait of the graduate, and we're working diligently toward implementing new courses and pathways for our students to take as we further look at how we can prepare our students for college and career. So at this time, I would like to introduce our CTE Director, Mike Marotti.
Thanks, Dr. Epperson. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. Just want to talk a little bit about what I'm excited about in regards to our plans for and continued growth in student success plan development and developing robust career pathways that will prepare kids, students for both academic, life, and career readiness. The career pathways development, we're looking to create new cutting-edge, robust, high-wage, high-skill, high-demand career pathway opportunities for students that infuse dual enrollment courses where students can, at the end of a pathway, take dual enrollment courses for college credit with local institutions. The ability to engage with robust work-based learning experiences to develop on-the-job training, and lastly, to develop industry-recognized credentialing for students at the end of their pathway to make their job applications and their resumes more robust and more competitive, to develop that competitive advantage that we want to see with our students. And our hope through that is that we can join in the effort to continue to get our students college, career, and life ready. With that being said, I'd like to introduce Nairi Toussaint, who is our new Director of College and Career Readiness.
Thanks, Mike. Good evening, everyone. We are thrilled at the opportunity to expand upon the college and career going culture to all of our students, beginning at the elementary level, middle school, and high schools. Also to continue to grow our college and career fairs and provide further awareness to our students and families of their post-secondary options. We are very proud to be a part of the state's FAFSA Challenge. This has allowed us to offer what we call our FAFSA Super Saturdays and provide one-on-one appointments to our families so that they may complete this important document and see what kind of financial assistance their child will receive from the colleges they apply to. There's so much to be excited in this area, and we look forward to what is to come, what we have planned, and that's all we have as far as post-secondary, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, and just going back to this idea of recommitting and reimagining, you know, these are, a lot of these ideas are what I said before is what we need to recommit to. But, you know, I'm sure a lot of the panelists on here and the participants, that it seems like we're over 100 now, Dr. Ruffin, is that, you know, well, we can't do this alone. And the purpose of tonight is to give you some of these, I would call them teasers of the things that we're looking forward to. But if you're truly interested in being part of the solution and committing to that, at the end of this, you'll be able to get onto a thought exchange and give us some feedback in each strategic area if you so desire. But also, if there's a strategic area that really interests you, to be able to join up and be part of that solution. And Dr. Ruffin will talk a little bit more about that later on in the presentation. And so, you know, we're not coming tonight with all the answers. We're coming tonight with ideas, and looking forward to having that conversation with you all in the near future. So with that being said, I'm going to limit myself in the second area, teaching and learning, because I've been told I could talk about this for a while. And so, you know, I'm really excited about a few things. Establishing an instructional framework for the district where it doesn't matter what school you go to, the same language of what best practice is understood by all professionals, and it's implemented in similar fashions throughout the district. I'm truly excited about that. I started some of that work when I came in as an elementary director, and to see that come to fruition in the next few years for the district is really important to me. We've heard a lot of feedback from administrators, teachers, and parents about having this tiered support system. We have a pretty good one in the elementary school when it comes to reading, but beyond that, you know, we really need to strengthen our multi-tiered system of support. The 3 levels of support that we can provide students is, 1, what do we do for all students in academics and behaviors? How do we support their social and emotional learning for all students? And then what do we do for the students that just need a little bit extra help? And so, having that system of a multi-tiered system of support is really important to establish in the district. We have parts of it in there, but really establishing that down in the next few years is something that excites me. And of course, we started on this path and we continued in it during the pandemic, but continuing the good work of making sure our curriculums are culturally relevant and making sure that they meet the needs of our students and our community is something of a deep passion of mine. Now we're looking forward to also, the pandemic brought up a lot about grading. We heard a lot about grading and assessments and what's fair and how do you grade? And that brings up questions of, you know, we all were graded in a similar fashion. Usually most of us were graded 0 to 100, and you either got an A to an F, and that was it. And you know, a lot of the districts in the state and across the country have transitioned from giving those traditional grades to standards-based grades. How are students really mastering standards? And what if students already mastered all those standards? Should they be going on to the next level standards? Most of the parents on the call, I think, would say yes. Like, if my student already knows it, let's get them on, let's accelerate them. Let's get them going onto the next level of standards. And so how are we grading and how are we reporting those grades is something that I'm interested in having further conversations about. How are we conducting the school day and school year? Is what we're doing now make sense for students? Is it a proper school day and school year? Is it appropriate for high school students to start the day so early? You know, those are the questions that we need to tackle as we reimagine education. You know, we're also looking at mastery-based learning. You know, what does it mean when you already have mastered something? Do you need to take the course? Can you earn the credit by taking an assessment or showing that you've mastered it to accelerate the students that have already gotten it, and then let them earn that credit through mastery-based learning? Or as students go through a course, it's not about seat time, it's about what they learned and how do we know they learned it? Answering those questions are not easy, but I think they're worthwhile pursuits, and I'm really excited to I'll wrap this up here, I promise, Matt. Technology and the tools that we've all been exposed to and have now become comfortable with, I hope, in the last year, it's like it's an endless amount of possibility of what we can do now in the schools. And you know, is it a virtual school? Is it opportunities for more students to be able to learn in different ways? And can we design lessons differently because of the virtual and the technology tools that have been provided? And so I'm excited about all those things and many more, but I set myself a limit. I'm cutting myself off. So I'll transition over to Matt in strategic area 3.
Thank you, Darren. So strategic area 3 is our family and community engagement. So the vision of Waterbury Public Schools is that all Waterbury students will graduate ready to transform their world. And in that statement, it recognizes that we need everyone's involvement to be able to do that. That's not something schools do on their own. It's not something an individual teacher does on their own. It's something that involves the community. It involves community organizations. It involves families, extended families, because public education in Waterbury, just like everywhere else, is just that. It's a public endeavor. And so this area is where we want to spend time thinking about how do we recommit to the things that we've been doing in Waterbury that create a welcoming and respectful environment of the range of incredibly diverse communities that make up Waterbury. While at the same time, how do we reimagine the way in which schools adjust and teaching adjusts to accommodate all of the differences that are there? And all the ways that we need to learn how to become culturally competent and acknowledging all the places our families come from into one school system. So I'm going to invite folks on our panel to talk about the vision of Waterbury Public Schools and how it relates to reimagining and recommitting the way we engage our families and communities in our work.
Okay, I can begin. I'm excited about reimagining those relationships that help us to build resilient students who not only survive the challenges of life, but who thrive and grow in the midst of them. And so we know that one of the first teachers of all of our students are the families, our parents. Our families have an extremely important role in shaping who our students are and who they are not. And so building two-way communications with our family is something that we recommit to. We also want to reimagine and improve our partnerships with our community agencies, especially those that support emotional wellness. I'm so excited to see on the participant list, a number of our partners are on the call today. And so we look forward to a future where you share with our staff how we can promote classrooms that promote wellness, and how our teachers can respond to concerning behaviors in a way that is constructive and supports the development of our students. I keep hearing the word community tonight. And in my mind, all I think about is community reflects a common unity. And there is power when we come together and figure out ways to support those things that we're invested in. And so we also realize that in building students who are ready to transform their world, sometimes life happens, and we all deal with moments where we have to manage stress, we have to manage trauma, loss, and grief. And so we want to be able to provide resources in our schools that support our students and our families. And so that is what we reimagine in this time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sujatha Wyckoff, and I'm the Director of Communications for Waterbury Public Schools, and extremely passionate about empowering all of you with information to make the best choices for your children. That is what communication means to me, and I've worked very closely with Ms. Davis, and I think moving forward, it's reinventing and continuing to build on the foundation we are laying in reaching every single one of our families, because that is what is necessary, and what our community deserves is that everyone has all the relevant information. And it's strengthening those partnerships with our community partners. As we know, we cannot do this work without them. So I want to thank all of you who have, reached out and who are vested in learning what is available for your students. And again, we have so much to celebrate in Waterbury Public Schools, so much to highlight and so much to offer. And I know this team, we are very committed to making sure you all are well informed about what is happening with Waterbury Public Schools.
And I'll finish this off with, we have some schools that we're really looking to transform into being true community schools. Schools are not built just for an a.m. to 3 p.m. day. And so how are we leveraging some of our schools to really become the hub of the community? I know that's something that Dr. Ruffin is very passionate about as well, and is the resident expert in there. And so how do we leverage the community schools? How do we create, to Sujatha's point, create a school choice office and make sure that everyone in the community understands that there are choices in Waterbury and they're growing. And so maybe Adela, you can just chime in real quick, because I know you're super excited about this as I am, is the new dual language school that's coming out for pre-K, K-1 students next year. Beyond these expansions of some of our 6 to 8 schools and pre-K schools and preschool expansion, and this opportunity possibly for maybe some virtual opportunities for students to do school. But, you know, this falls under family and community engagement, because the schools are created for families and communities and students. And so Adela, you would just jump in there and you know, let's talk about that school that we're all excited about.
And so, yes, definitely we're very excited about being able to open up or beginning of a new international dual language school. So we want to take the moment to say thank you to Dr. Ruffin for the support and for allowing this to happen and for supporting it the way that it's being supported. As research has shown us that the best form of education for students that are learning English is dual language programs. But in addition to that, dual language programs have proven to be effective for all students. So it's something that we're giving our students an opportunity to fully develop not only their native language, but acquire a second language as well. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about our Seal of Biliteracy. For the first time, the City of Waterbury is going to be awarding students the Seal of Biliteracy. We already have quite a few students who have met the requirement, and I'm very excited to report that coming up in March, we'll be doing another administration of the test. And we have close to 90 students registered to take a test to prove their proficiency in a second language. And the languages that we'll be testing include Spanish, German, Portuguese, Albanian, French, American Sign Language, Bosnian, Filipino, Haitian Creole, Italian, Mandarin Chinese, Pashto, and Turkish. So I think that's amazing, and it speaks to the talents that our students have and they bring with them from home. And then I also want to take a quick moment to just do a quick summary in Spanish and Albanian of the purpose of what we're doing here today. Buenas noches, le queremos dar la bienvenida al comienzo del proceso de reimaginar la educación. Estamos presentando información para considerar en nuestro movimiento hacia adelante en asegurar el éxito de todos nuestros estudiantes. Estamos invitando a todos a participar y compartir sus ideas a través de cuestionarios. Van a recibir un link a un cuestionario que se llama Think Tank. También queremos invitarlos a que se envuelvan a través de participación en uno de los 5 comités. And now I'm going to turn it over to Anila, who is going to address in Albanian.
Mirëmbrëma dhe mirë se erdhën në procesin e ndryshimit të pamjes të arsimit. Do të prezantojmë informacionin për ju për të ecur përpara dhe për të siguruar që të gjithë nxënësit të kenë sukses. Ju ftojmë që të jepni mendimet dhe idetë tuaja përmes pyetësorit dhe duke marrë pjesë në një nga grupet e punës në 5 aspektet kryesore.
So much, appreciate that. And Adela, I'm with you. I'm super excited as well for that school. I can't wait to get there and see what we can do with our pathway there. Next up is our talent management area. And so something that's very closely aligned to strategic area 2. You can't really improve the instruction without professional learning and talent management and getting the right people and the right teachers into the school system. And so one of the things we're looking at is to continue to grow our own and create initiatives for students to be excited about going into the fields of teaching, coming back to Waterbury and giving back to the community that helped raise them. I know that there's pursuits beyond that to also attract teachers in hard to fill areas. Discussion about can we work with the legislation on student loans? Can we create housing for teachers, low rent housing for teachers that are right out of college to come and entice them to come work in Waterbury? A lot of great ideas coming out of that office with Juan Mendoza now there as the assistant superintendent. And so really excited about that opportunity. And then just, you know, to be honest, solving the problem that we have with the diversity of the workforce, though, you know, is a huge part of reimagining education here in Waterbury, making sure we have more teachers that reflect the student body here. And so if that's something that you're passionate about as well as we are, that would be an area more than happy to invite you to provide feedback and a thought exchange on that, or join the subcommittee and show up with us and do the work to get us there. So with that, Matt, pass it over to you for Strategic Area 5.
Thank you, Darren. So the last of our areas, and we are getting ready to sort of wrap up and be able to give people an opportunity to let us know what they think about all these. But we have one more, and this one's really critical. It's the area of fiscal responsibility. It's the one that asks us, are we using all our resources to the interest of all of our students to make sure that we have equitable outcomes or equitable access, to a high quality education? And what we know is that with the ESSER II funds coming in, we're going to have a lot more resources. But to be clear, they're not a blank check. They're not coming without any recognition that there's already plans in the work here of work that needed to happen, or there's already work that we know needs to happen because of what the pandemic exposed about challenges in our system that this funds can help. Having said all that, the strategic plan is asking us to really think about how we align our budgets and have long-range planning. We want to recommit to being really fiscally responsible with the money that we get to serve Waterbury's children, even as we reimagine the way in which we can both allocate and manage resources in ways to perhaps solve some problems that we hadn't yet been able to solve. Having said that, I'll invite a couple panelists to come in and give us their expert advice about the ways we can think about this going forward.
Good evening, everyone. I'll start. I'm Will Clark. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Board of Education. And from the finance and operations side, we are very excited about this recommitment and reimagining process. With the work of the strategic plan, both the finance department and the operations departments really were recommitting to our strategies and goals. And a main part of that, as Matt was saying, was really thinking about how our resources are allocated from an equity lens and doing everything we can in our operations departments to be getting the right resources so that all students can achieve, and that we're working to support the educational curriculum planning that's out there with respect to our strategic plan. We went about looking at all of our different strategy areas, putting forward multi-year plans with respect to facilities, IT, and other elements. And we're looking at all of our different grants to make sure we're leveraging them appropriately and spending the money consistent with those grants, but also with the larger plans of the district. We also have really focused on sustainability and looking to make investments and that have a repeat and a return, and continuing to make those investments and have the opportunity to continue to put the money in the right places to sustain these plans through the long term. One of the bright sides or the silver linings of this COVID situation was, as we're putting those plans together, money became available for the virtual learning. So for example, we had been working on a one-to-one technology plan. The thing that was missing was money and resources. And with the advent of the COVID money for virtual learning, we were able to actually execute and accelerate that plan significantly to put those computers in the hands of students, to engage with our human capital department, to engage in training of staff, to flex and adjust and really, in a sense, reimagine the education that the students are receiving, but doing that in a way that really connected the facilities department, the budget department, with the town office, with the curriculum departments, to really make sure we're all aligned and all rowing in the same direction. So we've learned a lot through that process, and we really are excited about the reimagining piece, so we can embrace our lessons learned, continue to build on the strong partnerships, particularly with the Human Capital and Talent Office, which the Budget and Human Capital Office are really going hand in hand in many strategies, and putting those resources in the right place in order to take Waterbury to the next level. And with me tonight is the person who's most responsible for managing the budget and keeping us all honest to how we balance out, our Chief Financial Officer, Doreen Boyola.
Thank you so much, Will. Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be here to discuss Strategic Area 5, Fiscal Responsibility. I'm just going to continue on from what Mr. Clark has started. Yeah, we're ready to recommit back to the strategic area of fiscal responsibility. And we do that in our 2 goals of aligning our budgets to the strategic priorities, because the fiscal responsibility area has to support all the other areas. So what we want to do is increase access to have equitable opportunities for all of our students. Our second goal is to consolidate the long-range planning that Mr. Clark discussed, having plans in place so that we are able to have these extra funds that come in and be ready to move on that. And so to support a stable and a sustainable district. So we're going to recommit to our goals. And we're excited about reimagining education and the fiscal concept. We want to align our priorities to this new revenue that's coming in with the ESSER II funds. As was pointed out earlier, I mean, this is, you know, a one-time area. We have some long-range plans that we can, you know, be able to implement by using some of these funds in the areas of teaching and learning and technology. As Mr. Schwartz and Mr. Clark pointed out, you know, in the past year, I mean, if we didn't have the technology ready to go and a plan ready, there wouldn't have been much teaching and learning during this past year during the COVID crisis. But we were ready, we made some decisions, and we got the ball rolling to have our students learning. The other areas as well as facilities management, talent management, family and community partnerships, all is important to help our students. But our ultimate goal in developing this new plan and reimagining is to be financially sustainable and to benefit all of our students' educational experience in Waterbury for a long term. And we have to make critical decisions, and we have to make the decisions that are going to be able to help sustain our program that we start for these students, and it can go beyond and not just be a one-time thing that we start and can't finish. So I think that's the point of the strategic area for fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen and Will. Appreciate that perspective, and absolutely that strategic area helps support all other areas to get that done. So again, if that's something that interests you, please provide feedback through the thought exchange or sign up for the subcommittee and do the work with us. You know, I just want to go back to a few things. Number one, our mission in Waterbury Public Schools is to inspire and prepare every student to be successful in and beyond school. I hope you're starting to hear how the strategic areas align to that mission. And our vision is that all Waterbury Public School students will graduate ready to transform their world. And so as we close out here, and I pass the baton over to Dr. Ruffin, we want to think about that mission. We want to think about that vision, the strategic plan areas, but also we have a portrait of the graduate that we've heard and alluded to. And I see Nairi and Dr. Epperson, you guys, you have it back in your background. And you know, it's got to live in the district. It can't just be something that we did once, but we never go back to. And so when you think of the mission, you think of the vision, you think of the portrait of the graduate, and we have core values here that we need to, in my opinion, resurrect and get back into the language of a daily basis in the organization and the community. I hope as you see, for those that are able to see it, the core values and how those are truly aligning now to that strategic planning areas. How will the portrait of the graduate, the ESSER II funding priorities, the core values all work together in synergy and coherence to work for students? And so that they're not just something separate that we don't really talk about. They all have to be embedded in the plan and they have to work together. And so we are truly excited to reimagine with you, to recommit with you. For those that have access to the screen right now, there is a QR code. If you scan that QR code, you'll be able to jump right into a thought exchange. We have some great thoughts already in there from this morning. Please feel free to add in your thoughts and rate those thoughts that are already in there. For those that are listening, if you go to bit.ly/, bit.ly/recommit reimagine. Again, that's bit.ly/recommit reimagine. You'll be taken to that thought exchange as well. In that thought exchange, there is a link for you to sign up for a subcommittee. Please feel free to click on that link and sign up for a subcommittee. Again, from those 5 strategic areas we talked about tonight, if you're willing and able to put in the time to be with us, we would certainly appreciate you there and welcome that support and that collaboration. And so at this moment, I'll say goodbye and hand it over to Dr. Ruffin to close us out.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, team. Before I do a final closing and really help everyone understand how I envision this working, I want to acknowledge some of our board members. I know that Commissioner Harvey is on tonight. I believe Commissioner Tom Van Stone is as well. And so I'd just like to acknowledge them because of the hard work that they all put into devising a strategic plan, as well as really setting the mission, vision, and the core values that we have that help guide this work. And also want to thank all of you, because many of you on this webinar tonight helped us to develop the Portrait of a Graduate, which clearly defines what we expect students in Waterbury to learn and be able to do, and the characteristics of mind that we want them to possess when they leave Waterbury Public Schools. So I want to thank you for that in advance. Additionally, there's so many people that have been interested in this Reimagine education, and it makes me very happy to know that so many people are wanting to be a part of this. When we found out that we were going to receive $41+ million to be able to work on 5 very important strategies and goals, and the focus is very clear that we need to work on these things to not only get our children where we believe they should be now as a result of the pandemic, but where they need to go in the future. And so to engage the entire community of our teachers, our administrators, our parents, our students, our community partners, and more partners perhaps that we're going to be getting as we move forward, it's very important that we understand, so how are we going to reimagine this work? What's my role? Is my role to be able to send you requests of what we need to do, and then you can put it into the plan? And the answer to that is absolutely not. The answer is, if it doesn't fit into our strategic plan, and if it doesn't fit into what the board and everyone wants to see moving forward, then it might be a good idea, but it's not what we need to do. It has to be the work that we need to do as we reimagine education to move our youth forward. And so, because there are going to be 5 distinct committees, I envision that based on your interest tonight, based on the interest of the participants at our meeting earlier today, based on the interest of our principals and our assistant principals, which has been overwhelming as well, people are going to sign up for whatever resonates with you, any one of those 5 categories. And as you're selected for various committees, understand that we're not going to have committees of 50 to 100 people. But what will happen is, based on the various talents of the group, I see every one of those committees having very diverse members and voices at that table. For example, it's not going to be only teachers. It's not only going to be parents. It's not only going to be administrators. It's not only going to be business, but it's going to be people who want to collectively work on their particular passion. So there are 5 particular committees that will be formed, each of them with anywhere from 15 to 20 people on each committee, considering the diversity of voices that need to be at each one of those tables. There are going to be people that will not be assigned specifically to a committee. I see the people, all of you who want to continue to be a part of this. We might come back to you every single month with updates on what the committee has been thinking, the research that they've done, the readings that they've done, and the ideas that they're coming up with. And you're going to participate by giving them feedback so that we could refine the plan. We could rethink it. We could reimagine it. We could even stretch beyond our imagination based on your feedback, still having a very integral part in the design of the future for Waterbury Public Schools. So we're not looking for committee members who can come in only periodically. We're looking for people who can spend the time, quite honestly, to participate and be fully present, people who love to read and do research and learn about all of the reimagination work that's being done across the world as people are doing innovative and creative things in education on behalf of students, and being able to sustain whatever it is that we decide to do. So even the best laid out plans will probably get scrutinized by our 5th committee, which is really not in order. The committees are not in an order of preference. But when we look at budget and finance and sustainability, everything potentially could cost something. And so when it does, we'll have to look at it from the lens of this is a one-time funding opportunity. Can we sustain this in Waterbury Public Schools? And can we do things that don't necessarily cost money so that we can make certain it becomes embedded into the culture of Waterbury Public Schools? It becomes sustainable regardless of the staff that's in place, because it has been institutionalized and it makes a mark in Waterbury for the future, not just in 2021, not just in 2023, but for the entire decade and moving forward. So check your availability in terms of your commitment level. And if you are particularly interested in one of those committees and it resonates with you, please sign up, because we want your voice at that table. And if you understand that you don't have the time and the commitment for many meetings long term, then I would suggest that you join us to be able to hear frequent feedback from those committees so that you could have input and still be an integral part of the progress in Waterbury Public Schools. So those are some ways that I envision this moving forward. You have the link today. You have the thought exchange, which is really going to inform our work. We're going to wait anxiously and excitedly to find out just how many people are signing up for each one of these committees, and understand that this work is long-term. I even envision this group being a part of evaluating the progress of Waterbury Public Schools as we move forward, to giving a voice to the work that's being done so that we can be communicating with all of our stakeholders as we move our district forward. So thank you so much for being here this evening. Please do scan that barcode. Please do participate in the thought exchange. This is a very meaningful way that we get feedback from everyone as we move forward. After you've signed up for the committees, after the committee chairs have all been selected, decisions will be made for committee members. It will be publicized in a way that everyone will know who they are, and consider all of you an integral part of that process, whether you're actually going to serve in a committee or you're going to serve in another committee that's going to be giving feedback to the committees that are going to work very hard on this work. I hope this adds a little bit of clarity as we continue to do some work that's not easy, quite honestly. So thank you for your time this evening, and I so appreciate your being a part of our think tank and moving Waterbury forward. Thank you.